The wine production sector has for many decades seen an increase in production and sales. However, the surprising trend for 2023 is that wine production, both domestically and abroad, have fallen. For more on this, I am joined by Maryna Calow, Communications Manager at Wines of South Africa. Maryna, not such good news for the world, in fact, not just South Africa that has been affected. How much of a drop in production has been experienced in South Africa?
Hi, Masa. In South Africa, for the 2023 harvest was 14%. However, the good news is, by all accounts, our upcoming harvest in 2024, which is due to start in the next few weeks, is showing good signs for an improvement on that. So we're hopeful, cautiously optimistic, shall I say.
And Maryna, do we know the reasons behind this drop?
There are many reasons behind these kinds of drops. From 2015 to 2018, we had a major drought. Sometimes it's weather related. Sometimes it's just one of those things that happens. We are an industry that is agriculturally based, so we are very heavily reliant on the climate. So if there's drought, if there are floods like we experienced this year, that caused a lot of damage to our vineyards. All of these things have an impact on us. Even hail can, of course, affect the grapes, and frost at the wrong time when it's flowering, that can also have a major impact on our grapes. So there are a whole number of things that can impact on the ultimate yield that we get every year. So fingers crossed that we don't have that issue again in the next few weeks.
Now, this is the lowest that it's dropped apparently in 60 years. What does this mean for consumers and those who enjoy a glass of wine or two, particularly at this time of the year when it is festive season? Will there be a drop in demand? In fact, will there be a drop in supply, rather?
At this point, it doesn't look likely, especially here in South Africa, that there is likely to be a drop in supply. The potential impact that we might see if this trend is to continue for much longer is that the wine prices are likely to potentially go up. But this still remains to be seen. There are many factors that really play a part in the bigger picture when it comes to the whole supply and demand scheme of things. But for now, I don't think any of our consumers have to rush off to the shops to stock up unnecessarily. Of course, please continue to buy your favorite South African wine tipple, but no need to panic yet.
Will this mean that there will be more of an incentive to export South African wine, seeing as we don't have to panic as much at this point?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a likelihood in a bigger demand for South African wine exports, especially to our key markets. If you look at the way things have been happening in our competitive markets with lower yields, especially in the southern hemisphere, but also weather has had major impacts on yields throughout Europe. In California, they've experienced fires. So yes, that definitely does have an impact. And the positive side from our perspective as an industry is really that it's going to increase prices, especially in these international markets, which is something that is really necessary for our wine producers here. We've already seen our wine grow in demand internationally for various reasons, but one of the big ones is, of course, that our quality of our wine is absolutely exceptional. And it's great to see how this demand is increasing, and long may this continue.
Well, that may be good news as well for the wine industry. Will that affect the pockets of local consumers of wine? Will that affect the impact the cost of wine in domestic markets, for instance, now that there's this increased demand abroad for our wines?
Not necessarily. I think our producers really would prefer to sell the wine in the local market first and foremost. This is their main priority. We as a country, South Africa doesn't really import a lot of international wines. Yes, of course, you see it, and especially in the more premium side of things like champagne imported from France. However, the priority lies within our own domestic market, and this is where the producers will definitely ensure that our market is looked after first and foremost before exporting. It's also a lot easier to supply in the local market than as opposed to exporting. So I think if they had to make a choice, our locals will definitely come first.
What did the US do right, if anything at all? Was it just sheer luck? Because I see they've had a 12% increase from 2022.
I think it's sheer luck. You know, it's every year is a different year when it comes to agriculture and climate. And one year you can be lucky to have exceptional rains, really good weather conditions that ensures for not only great yields but also great quality of wine. And the next year you can be hit really hard by one of so many conditions that really impacts on your yield ultimately. And this is the fluctuation of any product that is agriculturally based. So it is pretty much the luck of the draw. One man's loss is the other one's gain.
And speaking of gains, looking forward to 2024, do you foresee a better harvest period perhaps?
Yes, at the moment, by all accounts, the harvest prospects are looking very favorable for South African wineries. There are a few things that can still happen in the coming weeks that may impact on the yield, but at the moment we had an excellent rainfall season here in the Western Cape, and we didn't have any frost during the really challenging period. Of course, we were very heavily hit by the floods that happened not so long ago here in the Western Cape, with a number of our producers suffering some major losses. But on the whole, it's very positive, and we feel that 2024 could be an excellent year for South African wine.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and alleviating those concerns, and that people don't need to go and rush and go and stock up on extra bottles of wine. Thank you so much for your time.